Welcome back. This is Court TV Live. I'm Cody Thomas in today for Ted Rollins. Now, we begin this hour in Utah where it is day one of the grief author murder trial for defendant Cody Richins. They accuse her of having an affair at the time of Eric's death and masterminding his murder for financial gain. Now, Cody has pleaded not guilty to all of those charges. Powerful opening statement. You know, he's walking through the money. He's walking through her boyfriend on the side. And there he's walking through evidence that he says will prove that Cody murdered Eric. Cody's in this house flipping business, right? You know, there's financial ups and downs in that business, as everyone knows. It's how it's been for decades. Everyone with bad credit is not a murderer. Between June and September of the same year, 2022, all of that money was spent. And we know she was deeply in debt. It seems like her defense might have an uphill battle here trying to disprove that financial motive. We can't forget the fact that he was messing around with this married woman. And you know, to me, that's just an added layer maybe against Cody. I mean, you have the modifications to the life insurance. You have her immediately paying off debt once she received $1 million payout. At what point does, you know, circumstantial but compelling quietly become not enough? Because the prosecution might be asking the jury to fill in some gaps or to make up some own assumptions for themselves. We've been listening to a forensic psychologist who says defendant Lucy Medina was the victim of years of physical and psychological abuse at the hands of her husband, who prosecutors say she tried to kill. Presumably, this witness is testifying to more so, you know, explain the abuse that Lucy allegedly endured and make an attempt to explain or to psychologically justify the actions of Lucy toward her husband. Do you think this is more of a self-defense case, or is this more of attempted murder dressed up as trauma? And now I want to reiterate. Now, we know battered spouse syndrome is a real thing. I don't want to discredit that, especially sitting in this seat here as a man. But I'd be remiss not to mention that we have seen battered spouse syndrome used as a crutch before in cases similar to this one. I thought it spoke volumes. You know, he sent the letter through his attorney. It was my fault, pretty much throwing his own self under the bus. And then he invokes the spousal privilege, pretty much saying, I'm not testifying against her for the same reason. I know this was because of me. She was defending herself. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I am Cody Thomas. Now, we are in Georgia this afternoon where the father of an accused school shooter is standing trial. What's going on here? Searching for their next witness. This is not a good look. You know, in a courtroom, you've been in plenty of courtrooms. You know credibility is currency inside a courtroom. This could affect how a jury sees this woman, the shooter's mother, who's supposed to be here on time. You mentioned something I wanted to talk about. Foreseeability. With cases like the Crumbley case, cases like this one, cases like in Wisconsin, the Abundant Life Christian School shooting, how does a court establish a heavy standard of foreseeability with these things? And particularly in this case, you know, how can the prosecution show that Colin Gray, in an evidentiary capacity, knew that his son was going to do this? And we have to point out this important fact in this case, and that fact is that Dale Warner rejected a last-minute plea deal that would have allowed him to plead guilty to a reduced charge of second-degree murder and tampering with evidence. But now, and he sat through this entire trial. The jury is deliberating. Now he's charged with open murder. D. Warner's body was found on property owned by the defendant here, Dale Warner, in a sealed ammonia tank, no less. Now, I'll tell you, if I was a juror, I'm hearing that and I'm going, oh, case closed. It had to be him. As a defense attorney, though, how do you slow that moment down among the jury? The defense can argue all day, you know, Dale is innocent, Dale didn't do this. But, you know, as a juror, I'd be sitting there thinking, all right, if he didn't do it, who did? And they didn't really establish, you know, it was this person that did it. It wasn't Dale, it was this guy right here. I mean, I figured that would have been an important part of their whole case when they're presenting it.